Nobody ever had a year in sport, probably nobody ever, than John McEnroe, like he did in 1984. He won 70 matches, lost only 2 times, 13 titles, including the United States Open and Wimbledon. But of course, John has regrets for his career, mercurial career that it is. And I just want you to, if you can, talk a little bit about that in our final moments here. What you'd take back, if you could.
Well, I'd take back the first year we had in Wimbledon. I would have hoped a little more guidance there, and obviously some of the court antics that have gone on through the years. But basically, I feel very fortunate. I feel like I feel very happy with my career. And if I had to have a regret tennis-wise, is if I never win the French Open, choking that match in 1984 to Lendl when I was up 2 sets to love, and probably playing the best match I'd ever played in my life. And it was going so well that I forced myself into, you know, say, hey, this can't continue, and end up losing 7-5 in the 5th. And I still haven't won the French title, and no American has in, I don't know, 30 years. It's kind of like the Giants in the Super Bowl. But as far as the off-the-court things, I don't really have the regrets in the sense that I'm obviously wish you could take things back. And but, I mean, what's the point of, you know, really looking and saying that at this point? I feel like hopefully, I think I've improved a lot as a human being. I've become a better person. I'm more open to and understanding of people's questions and why they may dislike or like me. And I feel like I'm in a good position right now.
It can be said of John McEnroe, like almost anybody, that maybe he just wants to be loved and understood. John, we thank you for this first show, and we'll be back tomorrow with another program with you, one-on-one with John McEnroe. We'll come back and tell you about that after this.
Mazda's got a brand new vehicle that's as unique and special and friendly as the family dog. It's the all-new Mazda MPV. It carries 7 like a wagon, it's versatile like a van, and with its responsive V6, it performs like a Mazda. If Mazda's MPV sounds like something that's never been before, you're right. About the only thing it won't do is get your paper in the morning. The all-new Mazda MPV. Family transportation, the Mazda way.
From now on, this is what dry is. Dry is a beer that starts bold from the first taste, finishes clean with no aftertaste, and refreshes completely. Dry is a beer called Michelob Dry. One taste, and you'll drink it dry.
Join us tomorrow for part 2 of our interview with John McEnroe. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Bye-bye.
Sports Look has been brought to you by Mazda and its new generation RX-7, the world-class 626, the fun-to-drive 323, and the full line of Mazda trucks. The more you look, the more you like Mazda value.
Coming up next on SportsCenter, the Kareem Farewell Tour stops off in Boston. The Bucks and the Hawks down in Dixie go down to the final buzzer. We'll highlight the Wings and Kings and other things from the NHL. It was yeoman's duty that got the Houston Cougars in a heap of trouble. And those Care Bears are at it all over again. McMahon hates Hampton.
That's the way he is. He's out for himself. He's just whining because he didn't make the Pro Bowl.
And Hampton hates McMahon.
If we keep waiting on someone that is not more or less concerned with our future, I think we're just lost.
All must be right in Chicagoland. Those stories and more as SportsCenter gets in your face next.
Again, everybody, it's good to be in your face once again for SportsCenter. I'm Bill Patrick, and this is Charlie Steiner, and we're talking about the big fella, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. His farewell tour hit Boston Garden Friday night, and one might say that they were maybe trying to butter up the big fella with a piece of the parquet.
It is clearly getting very late.
By the time Kareem Abdul-Jabbar finally calls it a career next spring, he will have played professional basketball professionally in 3 decades and with 5 different presidents of the United States. He's played more games in the NBA than anybody. He's scored more points than anybody. His coast-to-coast farewell tour continues. Friday night stop, a place that Jabbar knows awfully well, Boston Garden. We look back on Kareem's days at Boston Garden, 1973-74, the championship when he was a member of the Bucks. Skyhook with 5 seconds to go, giving the Bucks a 102-101 win. 1984-85 with the Lakers. Jabbar unstoppable, taking Boston to the hoop time and time again. He would have a team-high 29. Lakers won that game 111-100. Then we move on to Boston Garden
We don't
tonight.
want him to forget anything about this building. He's had his ups and downs. He's had a lot of ups. He's gone across this floor so many times. It's got to happen. We've got to give him a piece of this floor.
I guess I should start when I was a kid. When I didn't know anything about this game, I used to watch a team wearing green. They had a guy on the team wore number 6. He's taught me how to play the game. And they had a coach that liked to smoke cigars. And I would never have learned how to play the game if it had not been for the Celtics teams in the 50s and 60s. So for that, I would like to thank Coach Auerbach and General Manager Auerbach for what he has done for the game, because I have definitely benefited from it. That is a tradition here, and it's a well-deserved tradition.
And then it was game time. First quarter, Robert Parrish with the steal. The dish to Brian Shaw. Back to Reggie Lewis, and he's got the jam. Lewis would have 22 on the night. Now watch this pass. Brian Shaw right to Mark Akers. Pretty pass, easy jam. The Celtic bench turned a 12-2 run in the second quarter. Story of the first half. The Lakers couldn't drop the ball in the ocean from a rowboat. One no good, another no good, and yet another no good. And then finally a whistle and a foul. 5 for 22 for the Lakers in the second quarter. In the third, the Lakers would come back. Here's Kareem, a left-handed hook. Yes, it counts as a foul. He would have 10 points on the night. But Reggie Lewis and company, tough in the fourth quarter. Lewis with the steal. DJ with the long pass to Danny Ainge, and the Celtics go on and win 110-96. The Lakers lose 2 straight for the first time this season. They've dropped 3 of their last 4. Ainge led the Celtics with 25. Reggie Lewis, looking more and more like a modern-day Cornbread Maxwell, added 22. Magic Johnson led the Lakers with 31.
At the Omni Friday night in Atlanta, one of those classic matchups that you've heard so much about. One of the league's toughest home teams, the Atlanta Hawks, hosting a red-hot road team in the Milwaukee Bucks. But if you expect to stop the Hawks, you've got to bottle up Dominique Wilkins. They didn't exactly do that tonight. He did go 11 for 25 from the floor for 30 points, however. Terry Cummings was strong for Milwaukee. He had 29. Big play coming up right here. Check out Jack Sikma's feet. Well behind the three-point line, but he's only credited for 2, and that would hurt Milwaukee later on. Third quarter, Bucks by 1. Dominique again. As I said, he had 30 points. The Hawks were up by 1. Hawks start to pull away here in the fourth quarter. Moses Malone hits the fadeaway. He had 29. The Hawks were up by 5. But the Bucks come back. Doc Rivers nails the 18-footer, and they were up 113-112. Hawks up by 3 now. Sidney Moncrief at the buzzer, or was it after the buzzer? They say it was after time had expired. That would have tied it, but no. Atlanta wins it 115-112, and the Hawks are now just 2 games out of first place. Meanwhile, in Charlotte, Hornets fans all abuzz over their guys at home Friday night with the Dallas Mavericks. Kurt Rambis nails the baseline jumper. The Hornets outscored Dallas 12-2 to start this game. But the Mavs race back. Mark Aguirre, 2 of his 24 points. Dallas was up by 10 at halftime. They would not look back in the second half, but it got a little nasty in this game. James Donaldson and Michael Holden have a difference of opinion. Sam Perkins, Dave Hoppen, yikes. Yeah, but the Mavs would prevail in this one. 107-98 was your final score. The Hornets dropped to 5-5 at home. Respectable for an expansion team. I just asked Miami. While the Mavs have now caught the Denver Nuggets. They are tied for first place in the Midwest.
Hockey news now. The Detroit Red Wings, who had won 3 in a row in their last 4 at home at the Joe Louis Arena, hosted Wayne Gretzky and the LA Kings Friday night. The Kings currently reside in 2nd place in the Smythe Division with the 3rd best record overall in the NHL. So it figured to be a pretty decent game, and lo and behold, it was. It was a rough one, too, and Jacques Demers was none too pleased with the officiating this night. He had some basic fights, like Chris King and Ken Baumgartner going at it, finally being broken up by 6'8" linesman Mike Civic. Has some hard hitting as well. Delta Gray gets his head snapped by Sean Burr here in the second. The teams would get back to skating, and from his knees, Mike Allison scores, and that would give the Kings a 5-3 lead. That's all LA would need. Glenn Healy was sensational in the nets. Peter Klima slapping the loose puck wide, and then trying to slap in the rebound, and a terrific save upcoming by Glenn Healy. There, right there. And then there is Healy again, fighting off a Red Wing rush. Would make 3 of 39 saves in this sequence. Glenn Healy once again the difference this night as the Kings go on and beat Detroit by a score of 6-4. The Wings outshot the Kings 43-26. Healy is hockey's winningest goaltender. He won his 16th of the season. Sensational all night long. Bernie Nichols scored his 35th. Gretzky his 25th. Yzerman for Detroit scored his 30th. The LA Kings continue to show remarkable improvement. For example, they won their 21st game of the season on Friday night in their 33rd game of the year. Last year, they didn't win their 21st until the 59th game. And there are 4 more reasons why. Of course, the arrival of Wayne Gretzky, the impact he's had on Bernie Nichols in particular, who's on the road to doubling his point total from last season. All that and hockey's winningest goaltender, Glenn Healy. And the much-troubled forward of the Detroit Red Wings, Peter Klima, could face 3 months in prison and a $500 fine, and the loss of his driver's license for 2 years. This after pleading guilty to drunk driving charges in Detroit, and he had been failed to stop at an accident in October. He'll be sentenced in February.
Midnight Friday was the deadline for baseball's so-called new-look free agents to either sign with their present teams or declare free agency. Now, one of those 12, right-hander Jim Clancy of Toronto, opted for the latter. And he was gobbled up by the Houston Astros, who can use help from the right side, what with the departure of Nolan Ryan. Clancy, one of the original Blue Jays, agreed to a 3-year deal worth $3.45 million. His lifetime record, you ask? Well, it's 12 games under 500. 128 wins, 140 losses. The Twins and the Blue Jays also made Clancy some handsome overtures, but he went with the Astros. A half dozen more of these free agents, these new lookers, made some decisions today. We'll have more on that just a little later on in the show.
Glad you went through that. Yes,
Thank you very much.
Still to come on SportsCenter, more NBA news, including a turnpike shootout at the Meadowlands.
And a couple of angry bears growl on the radio. Stay with us. We'll have that and much more when we come back.
SportsCenter is brought to you by new Michelob Dry. One taste and you'll drink it dry.
What dry was. What dry is. Introducing new Michelob Dry Beer. It's brewed longer to start bold, finish clean, and refresh completely. New Michelob Dry. One taste, and you'll drink it dry.
What's the best brokerage account for an active investor? Ask a Schwab customer.
With my Schwab One asset management account, my money's never idle. When I sell a stock or I get a dividend, my cash instantly starts earning income. And it keeps on earning until I make my next investment.
When I need to get to my cash or take out a loan, I just use my Schwab Visa or write a check. Schwab One makes it easy.
All my financial moves are right here. And one simple statement. Now, you might expect to pay a lot of money for an account this handy, and not with Schwab One. There's no monthly fee. Now, that's real value.
To get your free booklet and an application for the Schwab One Asset Management account, call toll-free 800-848-8900. That's 800-848-8900. Call now for your free Schwab One booklet.
It's Bowl Week on ESPN. The All-American Bowl featuring the Florida Gators against the Fighting Illini. The SeaWorld Holiday Bowl with Heisman Trophy winner Barry Sanders leading Oklahoma State against high-scoring WAC champion Wyoming. And the Mazda Gator Bowl, a showdown between Georgia and Michigan State in the only bowl game on New Year's Day. It's a bowl bonanza, live on ESPN.
Back to the NBA now and to the Meadowlands, where the New Jersey Nets hosted the Philadelphia 76ers, who've suddenly fallen on hard times, losing 4 in a row and losing sight of first place in those New York Knicks. It was an ice-cold Philadelphia team that took the floor against the Nets tonight. Good hustle by the Nets in the first half. Joe Barry Carroll saves the ball to Dennis Hobson for 2. Now good passing underneath here by the Nets. Keith Lee with the easy bucket. They were up by a deuce at halftime. Close into the fourth quarter. That's when Charles Barkley came alive. The dish to Mo Cheeks for the 20-footer. Now watch him reject Dennis Hobson underneath. Get that out of here. You want some more from Charles? Watch the steal. And you can pretty much figure out the rest on this one. Sixers take control. Barkley had only 15 points on the night, well below his average. But he tops it all off with this casual three-pointer here. The Sixers break their losing streak, 114 to 106. The Sixers now just 3-7 on the road, but they are 3 games behind the Knicks. Meanwhile, in Phoenix, the Portland Trail Blazers looking to end their 3-game winning streak, looking to extend their 3-game winning streak. Instead, they ended it as the Blazers lost to the Suns 132 to 125. The Suns now 2 games over 500.
These have not been the best of times for Gene Shue and the Los Angeles Clippers. Being the only team in the history of the NBA to lose a game to the Miami Heat was the ultimate indignity. And on Friday night, amid rumors that Gene Shue was close to joining the ranks of this nation's unemployed, the 7-14 Clippers hosted the 14-7 Denver Nuggets at the LA Sports Arena, where we go just now. Clippers running early. Gary Grant finding Ken Norman for the jam. LA up 14-9. Clips would expand the lead in the second. Norman to Danny Manning on the reverse. 56-41 Clips, and the Clipperettes are a bunch of happy campers this night. Things going well for the Clippers in the third. Benoit Benjamin with the monster jam, sorta. Reggie Williams sticks it back home with 17. Then Williams would hit the fall-away jump shot out of the corner at the buzzer. It counts. 98-82 LA after 3. But the Nuggets were far from dead in quarter number 4. Walter Davis from three-point land. Fat Lever from three-point land. Walter Davis one more time from three-point land. It's a three-point game. The Nuggets' last chance, down by 3. Alex English intentionally missing the foul shot. They get the ball to Michael Adams, the three-point shooter, but he can hold on. Clippers hang on to win it, 121 to 118. Manning with a career-high 29 led the Clips. Ken Norman chipped in with 23. Davis led the Nuggets with 26. Clippers end their own 3-game losing streak. The Nuggets' 3-game winning streak comes to an end. Bulls beat the Pacers by 7. Pacers lose their 10th straight on the road. Their last road win came last April. Michael Jordan led the Bulls with 28. Mr. Bill had his best night as a Bull with 23.
Back to hockey now, and the other game on the schedule Friday night, a Smythe Division matchup that looked like anything but a good game, as first place Calgary visited last place Vancouver. But this one turned out to be a beauty. Flames fans on the road as well. 1-0 Flames lead. Canucks scramble. Al McInnes scores on Steve Weeks. They were up 2-0. It appeared to be a rout, but Weeks would hold Vancouver in check here, twice robbing Doug Gilmour at close range. Scary moment here in the second period. Barry Peterson was hit in the throat with a clear in. Luckily, he was okay, and would later on, he would return. Vancouver drew even with a pair of power play goals. Mike Vernon with a great stop, but there's Greg Adams with a rebound. 3-2 Canucks. 3-3, 4 seconds left in the second. Joey Newendike hauled down by Garth Butcher. They call for the penalty shot. And here comes Nieuwendyk as he goes to the backhand, beats Weeks. That puts the Flames ahead for keeps. Mike Vernon then held the Canucks off in the third as he won his 14th game. This stop on Ron Sutter, one of 24 that he made on the night. Calgary goes on to a 5-3 win. They now pace the NHL with 51 points, and they maintain their 8-point lead over the LA Kings.
Now to college basketball, the Seton Hall Pirates, ranked 17th in the country after winning their first 8, traveled all the way into Manhattan from their New Jersey digs to lock horns with the Fordham Rams. And on to New York City we go. Pirates in control from the get-go. Ramon Ramos will dish to Darrell Walker. He's got the bucket. Seton Hall would take a 12-0 lead. Off the Fordham fast break, the Pirates will push it up. Andrew Gaze drives home. He has 16 on the night. The big player of the night was Gerald Greene from three-point land, wide open. He nails it, and Seton Hall goes on for an easy 78-64 win over Fordham. Greene led the Pirates with a career-high 22. He was 5 for 5 from three-point land. Seton Hall goes to 9-0. Missouri easily over Eastern Washington, 81-68. Tigers won by 13 in the opening round of the Walsworth Classic in Columbia. Doug Smith led Missouri with 14. The struggling Kentucky Wildcats at home in their own building against Bowling Green, down by 2 at the buzzer. Richie Farmer's shot rims the bucket. Bowling Green beats Kentucky 56-54. Wildcats drop to 3-5. It is the earliest point in the season that the Wildcats have lost 5 games in 62 years. The third time they've lost the opening round of their very own tournament in 36 years. And a reminder, Loyola of Chicago and Oklahoma in a game that'll provide plenty of points for you. Saturday night, 8 o'clock Eastern time. 2 teams that consistently score 100 points a game. You'll see it right here on ESPN. Stay where you are. We'll have college and pro football news up next.
But first, the rest of tonight's college hoop scores coming right at you. We'll be right back.
Over 30 and single?
Are you looking for love or companionship?
Call the new Romance Hotline and listen to recorded messages from exciting and sincere singles.
Dial 1-900-909-8000.
Call anytime, 24 hours, and hear recordings of single people looking for romance.
On the Romance Hotline.
For adults over 30 only, please.
Call 1-900-909-8000.
Happiness is just a phone call away.
And when you call, remember, it's your little secret.
No matter what anyone tells you, the Wall Street Journal cannot make you a success overnight. Which is why we suggest a 13-week subscription.
Call 800-372-3000 for this great journal subscription offer. 13 weeks for just $29.75 with a money-back guarantee. 13 weeks, $29.75. Phone 800-372-3000 now for the Wall Street Journal.
Must win for a playoff spot. The 49ers need a win for the division championship. Mike Patrick and Joe Theismann bring you the head-to-head action of NFL Sunday Night Football live on ESPN.
And the beat goes on in the Southwest Conference. The University of Houston football team Friday was placed on 3 years probation by the NCAA because of rules violations committed not by the present regime, but during the reign of Bill Yeoman, who was the Cougars head coach for 25 years. Yeoman is now a fundraiser for the school, but because of infractions that occurred during his tenure, the Cougars were hit with a 3-year probation, which includes 2 seasons of no bowl games and 1 season of no appearances on TV. The violations, well, they include cash payments to players, illegal contacts, loans of cars and clothing. And all of this, says the NCAA, occurred with Yeoman's knowledge. So Houston now becomes the 7th Southwest Conference school in the last 3 years to have endured either football or basketball probation. The only schools to have escaped the long arm of the law, Arkansas and Rice. In about 7 weeks, UNLV basketball coach Jerry Tarkanian will discover what, if any, penalties will be imposed on him by the NCAA for violations committed 12 years ago. Friday, UNLV President Robert Maxson said the school will offer suggestions to the NCAA on what kinds of penalties will be imposed. NCAA Executive Director Dick Schultz said the school will be penalized in some manner.
Forget about the Bronx Zoo. The Bears are running amok again. No matter that Chicago has clinched the NFC Central Division title, two of their most valuable players don't like one another, not one little bit. And they've taken to talking on the radio in Chicago. Defensive end Dan Hampton and the often injured quarterback Jim McMahon.
If we keep waiting on someone that is not more or less concerned with our future, I think we're just lost. So I tell you what, Tom Zach seems to be the guy that has got everything going for us right now, and I couldn't be happier.
That's pretty typical, though. Hampton? Well, you know, he lipped off a couple years ago in '86. You know, everybody else knew my arm was hurting. I eventually had surgery, so that proved, you know, how stupid he was to say the things that he said. So, you know, I don't really care what Dan Hampton says. I mean, he's, you know, that's the way he is. He's out for himself. He's just whining because he didn't make the Pro Bowl.
As far as the action on the field goes, there are 2 NFL games set for Saturday. 2 games involving 2 teams that are playing out the string, but 2 other teams that are very much in the thick of things. First of all, the Bengals play the Redskins. Now, the Skins season is over. While the Bengals are still out to take the Central Division title, they're in the playoffs, but where and against whom are the questions. Now, part of the story is simple. If the Bengals beat the Skins, they win the Central. And they still have a shot at home field advantage throughout the playoffs, depending on what the Bills do. Should the Bengals lose to Washington, the Oilers still have a chance to take the Central title. Now, the other game tomorrow, the Patriots are at Denver at Mile High Stadium. Now, Denver is out of it as well, just like the Skins, but the Pats control their own destiny. Let's examine both possibilities. Should the Pats win, they're in the playoffs as a wild card team, cut and dried. They could also get a wild card if both the Browns and the Colts lose on Sunday. If the Pats lose, then Houston squeaks in as a wild card. You follow? If they lose, then the Colts are still alive. So, in other words, we'll talk again on Sunday. Now, since there are games on Saturday, we will have a special edition of NFL Game Day as well. Join Chris Berman, Tom Jackson, and Pete Axthelm. They come your way at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So start your NFL day here on ESPN with Game Day and follow it up with NFL Primetime on Sunday, along with NFL Game Day on Sunday as well. Here we go. Of course, Sunday night, our final Sunday night game of the season. It's a doozy, should be anyway, as the 49ers host the Rams. Mike Patrick and Joe Theismann with all the action from the city by the bay. Sunday night, 8 o'clock Eastern, right here on ESPN.
Now, what happens if the Bengals lose?
I forget.
Still to come on SportsCenter, some warm weather sports, tennis and golf.
Including the sweet swinging Nancy Lopez, who comes up aces. We mean it. We'll be right back.
One way to find a job is to look in publications. Lots of publications.
Any luck?
Well, I've got newspapers, magazines, trade papers.
Find anything yet?
Newsletters, phone books, you name it.
There's a better way to find a better job.
Honey, look at this.
The National Business Employment Weekly.
It's published by the Wall Street Journal. It lists hundreds of high-paying jobs all across the country.
Now, what about managerial jobs?
Managerial, professional, technical, sales like mine. It even has articles on interviewing, writing a better resume, and how to succeed once you get the job.
What am I doing with all of these now that I have the National Business Employment Weekly?
Pick up the National Business Employment Weekly at a newsstand or call 800-372-3000 and receive 8 issues by first-class mail for only $35. 800-372-3000. The National Business Employment Weekly.
Don't make a career move without it.
We had a minor baseball trade on Friday, a National League East deal between the Phillies and Cardinals. The Cards sending outfielder Kurt Ford and catcher Steve Lake to the Phillies for outfielder Milt Thompson. Lake is expected to help fill the void left when Lance Parrish went to the Angels. And now back to those new-look free agents we were talking about. Jim Clancy, of course, goes to the Astros. The half-dozen others who had to decide either to sign with their present teams or test the free agent waters have done just that. Let's check the list. Doyle Alexander has gone with the free agency route, but he's expected to go back to Detroit. Alan Ashby, re-signed by the Astros. He'll be the battery mate of Jim Clancy. Bob Boone, of course, signed by the Royals. Clancy to the Astros. Ken Daly, re-signed by the St. Louis Cardinals. Brian Downing has been re-signed by his old team, the Angels, a guaranteed $850,000 salary for '89, and the list goes on. Now, to golf and the first round of the Mazda Team Championship from Puerto Rico. It's the season-ending event for both the LPGA and the PGA Seniors. The shot of the tournament so far belongs to Nancy Lopez. It's going to be awfully tough to top this one.
Nancy Lopez, 14th tee.
Lopez, a hole-in-one on the 14th hole, but it only got her and her partner Harold Henning to within 6 strokes of the leaders. The leaders after 18 holes, Dave Hill and Colleen Walker at 12 under par. And in tennis, a big upset is brewing in Sweden as West Germany is on the verge of knocking off the defending champs, Sweden, in the finals of the Davis Cup. Boris Becker straight-setted Stefan Edberg 6-3, 6-1, 6-4, and Carl Uwe Steve knocked off #1 Mats Wilander, the top player in the world, in 5 sets. West Germany takes a 2-0 lead in the best-of-5 tie. If West Germany wins the doubles tomorrow, they sweep, they win. Big upset. Big upset.
We'll be back to wrap up this edition of SportsCenter in just a minute.
Is attracting everyone's attention. Gold Star. After all, when you pay attention to what people want, people pay attention to you. Gold Star, the brightest star in electronics.
From now on, this is what dry is. Dry is a beer that starts bold from the first taste, finishes clean with no aftertaste, and refreshes completely. Dry is a beer called Michelob Dry. One taste, and you'll drink it dry.
Saturday, the nation's most explosive offenses are ready to light up the scoreboard. All-American Stacey King leads Oklahoma against high-powered Loyola Marymount. Saturday night at 8 Eastern, live on ESPN.
This just into SportsCenter. Babe Pratt, Hockey Hall of Famer and Goodwill Ambassador for the Vancouver Canucks, died tonight of a massive heart attack during the Flames-Canucks game. He was 72. He collapsed in the media room at Pacific Coliseum during the second period of tonight's game, and our heartfelt condolences go out to the family of Babe Pratt.
And finally, it's been 7 years since the Sacred Heart girls high school basketball team from Carbondale, Pennsylvania won a game, a losing streak of 141 games. That has eaten up 4 coaches along the way. On Friday afternoon, in front of maybe 60 family members and friends, the Lady Roses of Sacred Heart finally won a game. They upset the Eagles of Mountain View High 41-38. Congratulations to Coach Joe Canigliaro and Carbondale, Pennsylvania Sacred Heart High School. After 2,549 days, at last, a victory.
What's the saying? All bad things must come to an end?
Good idea. I'm Charlie Steiner.
I'm Bill Patrick. See you later.
SportsCenter is brought to you by new Michelob Dry. One taste and you'll drink it.